place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday, September 1st, 2025, and this is episode 1076 of Living Free in Tennessee. And you'll notice it's very dark outside. Full transparency, this is a pre-recorded episode, and I'm starting to do these on Monday, which is going to take us back to the old feel of the podcast. When I was just audio recording in a room. I'm doing this so that I can have one day off a week because it is time to build that into my life. And guess who it's up to get that done? Me right here, this person. So we'll be coming to you pre-recorded on Mondays unless I'm unable to manage that. But I should be able to manage that, even if we are getting Nicole Sauce after dark, because we had a meetup today over at the Base Camp Lodge, followed by a webinar on artificial intelligence. So, of course, it's a little later in the day than I would usually record this. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? What we're going to talk about is really something that occurred to me, which is this: when digital isn't enough. So, ironically, I'm coming to you digitally to talk about when digital isn't enough and why in-person matters more than ever, especially with AI changes and everything else. But it's much deeper than that, and I think it's much more emotional than that. So we'll be talking about that today. Before we do that, though, of course, we'll hit all of our usual Monday segments, starting with our featured event of today's show, and that is the small engine class that's going to be put on by Alan Bechard at the Base Camp Lodge, which is part of the Holler Homestead project we've talked about, the Holler Hub, that we originally set up for September 13th. And then I realized I'd written down something wrong. So the East Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance is on that day too. And a lot of you who will want to come to the small engine class, which is going to be lawnmowers, it's going to be chainsaws, and it's going to be generators, you'll already be in East Tennessee, as you should be, supporting that festival. I, in fact, plan to be at that festival, although I might just go on Friday, not Saturday. I might go Saturday, not Friday. I don't know. It's going to be one day because it's awful close to Self-Reliance Festival for me. But I can't wait to go check out, and they're at a new location in Knoxville. So I talked to Alan. I said, hey, can we move that to September 20th? And he said, sure. So that event will be September 20th. And in the Monday Mail, if you were on the Monday Mail today, you saw that you can already sign up for that event. It's a paid event. It does include lunch, and it'll be at the Base Camp Lodge. Bring your stuff, man. I plan to bring my generator because I need to learn how to do an oil change. We're going to do the class. And then after the class, if there's something you want to work on for a bit while he's willing to give his time for that, we can do that as well. I think Tactical will be there too, and some other people who may be able to help you. We'll see how it all goes, but it's sort of like a small engine jam session after the class. So that should be a fun one. And then, of course, we are having our monthly meetup the day after the class, which is sort of how we've been scheduling things lately, is to do the class and then the meetup for homesteaders. And that will be on the 21st. And the topic is, the demo is going to be how to make biochar, which is literally just an excuse in September to sit around a fire, right? But it starts with a potluck at 1, and then it goes into the biochar demo, and you can see like how we make biochar here, which I learned from Jack Spirko. But that's going to be up on the Living Free in Tennessee website if you want to sign up, livingfreeintennessee.com, livingfreeintennessee.com. I also want to thank 2 sponsors today. The first sponsor is Strong Roots Resources. Kerry Brown from Strong Roots Resources has really specialized down on some niches. He's very good at helping you figure out how to do your permaculture design on your homestead. Check them out at strongrootsresources.com. And remember to include the wild edible plant piece, because that is amazing what he does there. He can like scope out your property, check out what's there, show it to you, explain to you what you've got and how you can cultivate it. Definitely check him out. strongrootsresources.com. And he's also the food forest whisperer here at Living Free in Tennessee at the Holler Homestead. And he is in the process of iterating the food forest to do to Tennessee style, because we have a problem with abundance here, meaning I'm abundantly growing weeds, which is not what I want. What's a weed? That's a philosophical question for another day, but it basically means anything I don't actually want in my food forest. So I want to make space for the things I do want, and he's helping us with that. Our second sponsor of today's show is Discount Mylar Bags. Toby from Discount Mylar Bags is one of us. That's right. He set up a business to source things in bulk and pass on the savings to you. And you can get those savings at discountmylarbags.com, where he's also got a number of articles up about just like what size bag you might want to use, as well as what type of O2 absorber to use. Now, of course, with the tariffs on the China thing happening, he may not be getting as good as prices as he used to, but that doesn't matter. He has a whole bunch of stuff there. You can check it out, discountmylarbags.com. With that, it's time for our first Monday segment, which is Tales from the Prepper Pantry. This is where we talk about using what you store and storing what you use. And my Prepper Pantry has a tale of woe, because I noticed that there was like some water on the floor, and I thought it was because there's a drainage issue that is mostly dealt with, but not all the way. We've had so much rain this summer, so I've been watching this water, but it hasn't been that bad. And then it was bad yesterday, day before yesterday, something like that. And I realized it was not from seepage. It is because of a plumbing leak, which has caused also some of the work we just did is going to have to be redone because of the leak. And it's nothing that could be helped, but that actually just makes the Prepper Pantry. The problem with the Prepper Pantry is it's also a utility room. So the utility room utilities sometimes, and utilities fail. And then when they fail, we have to redo stuff. So I'll be ripping out some things we just did, putting things back in. But, you know, all in all, that space works pretty well. We have just stocked our freezer with ducks and chickens from Hoff Grid Meat Company. That's who was doing the presentation this weekend. So that's pretty awesome. I can't wait to dive into some of that for our meal planning. And then I was also talking to them, as well as everybody else at this event, about how do we get our grocery buying club really going. And the answer is I need to do a few more steps on my side from a business standpoint. And there's no reason we can't launch it. But I think realistically, it's going to have to be after Self-Reliance Festival, unless something else comes into play that works better. So that's what I'm seeing as the timeline. I was hoping to get it done in early August. And there was just, you know, that was like August was my time to remember how we schedule ourselves and how important it is to be purposeful with that, by being not purposeful about it and adding the launch of a grocery buying club was not exactly what I wanted to do. And really what we're doing is leveraging our local resources into a buying club. I'm not looking to add the Azure standard layer necessarily. That may be something that club members decide they want, and then we'll work on that. But really, I just know that we have so many people producing stuff that it's really great. Other than that, I looked at all my canned tomatoes from last year and didn't can more tomato sauce this year. I think I'll stick to that unless I happen to really get a line on like cheap tomatoes. My tomatoes, we made salsa out of them, and then we've mostly been eating them fresh as we go. I've done a lot of like tomato with vegetables and meats sort of things, or just serving them fresh on tomato cucumber salads, which is one of my favorites. So that's all happening. And if I get more green beans, I will can more green beans. We will see how the green beans go. I heard that next week there will be green beans at the farmer's market, so I might buy some, but also I have some more plants in the garden. So far, I've mostly just been eating them fresh from the garden after the last like couple of passes of harvesting and canning the green beans. Next up, we have, well, I don't have a frugality tip this week, do I? Let me double check that. Frugality tip, because there's no shopping report, Joe. Joe, there's no shopping report. Let me see. Nope, I do not have a frugality tip, but I will tell you this, and this is a frugality tip you've had before. I have wanted to update my sofa in my house for months. And, we've gone through 3 animals who have passed away. And when animals pass away, things happen to your couch or can happen to your couch, and things happened to my couch. And I dealt with it as best I could. But I wanted to have a sofa in my living room. And so I've just been sort of like, okay, I have one more older animal and like she could throw up or something. So do I really want a couch or do I really not want a couch? And then they have, couches at furniture stores that are $1,000. And I'm like, maybe not right now. Well, I got a brand new couch. Practically brand new. It's actually used, but it looks new. And I got it for $150 with 2 ottomans, which are now, at least one of them's for sale. The second one may be for sale. Balloons. And so $100, a couch, doesn't smell, in great condition, way cheaper than $1,000. So it does not hurt to look at Facebook Marketplace. And right now, people are a little strapped for money, which means some people are selling some things. So it's not a bad time to tap into that either. We also got an extension ladder that is 24 feet for $75,000, $75,000, no, $75, which is great because we need to paint the base camp lodge. And in order to do that, having a ladder that's tall enough to get to the top of the wall of base camp lodge is going to be helpful. So that actually enables us to save money to not have to hire somebody to do it. But we had to spend money on the ladder because we did not have a ladder. I had a 16-foot extension ladder. I believe this one's 24 and not 22 feet. But 22 feet gets us where we need to go anyway. But 24 feet is a little bit better. So the frugality tip is keep an eye out on the used market. Don't discount that. Sometimes the older stuff lasts longer too. So that doesn't hurt. But don't, like the cautionary tale is do not just start accumulating stuff because it's a good deal, because then you end up with a bunch of stuff that you may or may not use. Next up, we have Operation Independence, where we talk about building local ongoing revenue into our lives. We had our second Airbnb person at the Base Camp Lodge, and I changed it on Airbnb. So right now, if you rent the Base Camp Lodge at the Holler Homestead, you get the whole lodge to yourself, because I have not set up camping out there or anything else. And when we do an event, I actually block it off so that it cannot be rented, because it's easier than trying to work around people. That may change someday, but right now you get the whole lodge, which is kind of cool. And I did that update over this weekend just to make it a little bit more clear. The person who rented it from us didn't realize they had done a bedroom only rental. So that was probably better for them anyway. They got the whole lodge. It was fine. And we'll see how that pans out. I haven't had a lot of renters yet, but we've had a few. And of course, we have a lot of things going on the weekends. So it's more like it's a better weekday rental. But it's not a bad place to stay. Like if you're driving through Tennessee, we're like 8 miles, I think, from the freeway exit. So you have to get off the freeway a little bit. But it's not a bad just single overnight. I don't charge a cleaning fee because, especially on a single overnight, most people don't really mess it up. And I do ask that people keep tidy as best they can. But that's one way we're getting revenue in. And then, of course, doing the classes. And I finally have my Nicole country store up, meaning you can buy, if you go to Base Camp Lodge, you literally can buy coffee, books I've written, guides I've written, herbs we've dried. And I also have a Ball Blue canning book there that you can buy. So we're starting to get that stuff up and running. I'll have better shelves over time, but I figured at least get something up and running. And then once it's up and running, you're good to go. So we will see how that goes. I will say that we are making less money at Base Camp than we were when it was a rental, a month-to-month rental. But I am hopeful that it will serve the mission. Like when I saw what happened today at our meetup today, I was pretty pleased with how things went. I'm kind of taking my glasses off. So I can see far away without my glasses really well, but I can't see up close. So then when I want to look over to my right at things, I have to put the glasses on. So that's why we do glasses on and off for this one. You'll also notice I'm not in my studio right now. My podcast studio climate control was removed from it a month ago, and I need to get it back in. And until that happens, I am not broadcasting from there because it gets a little too uncomfortable. So, although actually today it might have been fine with the window open, but then we'd hear stuff from the window. So we'll see if I'm back in there by next week. It's not like next week I'm going to somebody's wedding, so we'll see. We'll see if we get the stuff done. Anyway, it's time for the main topic of today's show, and that is all about why in-person matters more than ever. That's the topic today. And I have a question for you. And this is what I just started thinking about it today because I watched what happened for our meetup at the Base Camp Lodge. And that meetup went really well. Our last meetup here was a while ago, and it was at my Holler Homestead home outside, and it gets kind of hot out there, and it was the rabbit one, and that one went pretty well too. But this time we got to do our first potluck / meetup at the Base Camp Lodge because the presentation we had was slide based, and then sort of they brought a visual aid, so they brought the actual thing so you could see how it was put together. And I purposefully chose that for the August one because I thought in August under Taj Mahal, it's going to be roughly 200,000 degrees. So let's do something that's more inside, climate controlled. You're not like just sweating your bum off. And so we always planned to do this one at Base Camp. But now that I've done one at Base Camp, I'm like, it kind of works pretty well there. So we'll see. But right now, our next one is also at Base Camp. And the question came to me while I was watching this whole situation go down, which was this: when was the last time you had a transformative experience in your life? When can you think of a time where you were just like, I get it now and I'm going to change? And we had people at the meetup today who I've watched go through that process. We had people today who I have shared the video of them going through that process at Self-Reliance Festival. And I've gone through a few of them in the last couple of years. And it really got me to thinking about the world we live in and life in general, to quote a band. And what causes us to have these transformations. And often, but not always, we go through a transformation because of a conversation we had or because of an event we are at and participating in, and something happens. And very rarely do we have a transformational experience because we poured it into a webinar about artificial intelligence and it changed our life. Okay. And that, to me, is very telling. And the reason it's telling is that the in-person experience is part of what sparks the changes we need to make. So if we are isolating ourselves and never in person with anybody, how do we grow? I mean, you can do a lot of self-reflection, you can read a lot, you can read philosophy, you can pray, and you will probably get some things. But the really big stuff, does that happen when you're alone? Maybe you're an outlier, maybe it does. That's okay. You can just turn off this podcast for now. And if you see me looking to the right, I have to look at my notes from time to time. So this weekend, we had a free event, which makes people happy. It was a potluck, so you never know what you're going to get at a potluck, right? And then it was a solar fence presentation paired with sort of a demonstration of what it looks like. Okay. And people came, like a number of people came because they're like, I need to do fencing. So I came because I wanted to see this fencing thing. And it was a very good presentation. Like the information was definitely solid, and it showed us like a lot of thought was put into it, but the information that was shared was direct experience, but also like broken out in a logical way. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's all information you could have learned from YouTube, except that most of the YouTube fence people I see are promoting one kind of fence charger, and most of the homesteaders I know who actually have to use a fence charger are using a different kind of fence charger. And it was funny because several of us had electric fences who were in the room, and as we were kind of talking through that issue, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we go to Cyclops chargers 100% of the time." Like, this is why they're great. Talking about the customer service, the quality of the product, the thought put into the product, all of it is why a lot of us go to Cyclops. And then I found out they're local. Like, I didn't realize how local they were, but they're somewhere in our area. So if anybody can put me in touch with the owner of Cyclops Fences, I actually think we should be talking, by the way. So, the magic of the meetup, though, was a thing that happens almost every time we have a meetup, and that is the lingering. So, first of all, I believe I-40 was shut down due to an accident today, and our presenters were on the wrong side of that. So they showed up later than they wanted to by about an hour. And I always start the meetups we do with the potluck, and then we have the presentation. So it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, lunch-ish time. And that helps for anybody who has something like that, especially a presenter underway and like, oh no, we ran into traffic. Yeah, that happens. Accidents happen. People get lost on the way to my house sometimes. It's just a whole thing. So that works out well. And it gives the chance for the people coming to see the presentation or the demonstration, it gives them a chance to kind of talk to each other and get to know each other. And it gives me a chance to like mingle and talk to people. And I think that's like, you know, the reason we do the meetups is so that relationships can develop and trust can be built and all of those things. So the magic that really happens is in that lingering and in those conversations that happen and in the questions that people are asking, sharing stories, trading side knowledge, and another thinging each other, talking about how can I, you know, like we had a long conversation about the buying club. Like it was really interesting because I talked about the buying club a little bit, and we had another meat producer there who was like, hey, I mean, I want both to buy and to sell into that. And I'm like, exactly, like we all want that, but somehow we're like, this isn't a new idea. We have a buying club, right? We're disconnecting from each other. We're not quite getting it done, right? Like I tell you guys, I'm buying chickens and ducks from Hoff Grid Meat Company, but are you? And do you live near them? And do you get their eggs? You know, like all of those things are super important. So, and then if you're growing vegetables, are people buying your vegetables? Or if you are a producer of herbs and herb mixes, are they buying your herb mixes? Like, you know, where's honey? Are you getting your honeybees kitchen herb mixes or not? So that's like on the economic side. But what I was watching go down today is just like lots of people sharing stories and background and asking questions. Like we had some people who have the land but haven't really started the farming side. We have people who've been farming for 3 years who have turned it profitable or have just turned it profitable. We have, you know, all walk like homestead scale, larger scale, and they're all just, they don't want to leave because they're finally around people who they can ask the vulnerable questions, which are the questions that sound stupid on a YouTube feed, but they can also, one person says something, it sparks an idea in somebody else, which sparks a piece of information that somebody across the room who overhears them has. And that, my friends, is something that we have not figured out how to replicate online. That, my friends, is the magic of an in-person meetup. And that to me shows the real value of figuring out how to, if you're on a homestead, how to leave your homestead and go places like we went to Polyface Farm last month, or come to my meetup, or go to Self-Reliance Festival, or go to one of Don Gorham's classes, or Homesteaders Alliance meetups, or go to the East Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance meetup, like whatever, go to Carrie Brown's meetup. There's another one they do in Strawberry Hill, I think it's Strawberry Springs, but it's on the LFTN Freedom Cell. There's a rabbit processing that Amy's doing on the 13th of September, like near Alabama or in Alabama. So like there's all of these things going on in our network, and they're going on nationwide. In fact, some of you guys are doing events and you're not telling me, so I can't put them on the calendar. And you should be telling me these things. Those in-person experiences are how lives are transformed. Today, one life was transformed. I watch it happen. I don't think they know it was happening, which means I'm going to use they instead of the gender. But I saw some things click for this person, and I was like, yep, that's why we do these meetups. That's why it needs to happen. There may have been more than one. I don't know. But that moment shows the real value about how we develop real relationships with each other that we can then support digitally. You know what I mean? So like we may get to know each other digitally because you guys see me do like a how to raise chickens thing, or the redneck meat pie video that came out on Sunday, right? And you're like, oh, that's funny. I want to connect with those people. I think I'll go meet them in person, or I'll just stay here for years and lurk until I'm ready to meet them in person. Like we got to taste pawpaws at this thing because the pawpaws are ripe, right? So I think the digital world is what allows a lot of us to live the life we're living more easily on the homestead, where I can do work digitally. Like I can sell coffee, and then I can roast the coffee and ship it. And if without like the internet and the World Wide Web and people willing to take their credit cards and pay for hollow roast coffee, I wouldn't be able to be here unless I was back in my consulting role, which meant I was traveling a lot more. I know you guys think I travel a lot now. Do you remember what it was like when I was gone for at least a week or two every month? Holy cannoli. I don't even understand how I kept my podcast coming out every week back then. But I had to do that to get enough money, baseline money, because I had not designed my homestead with profit in mind to begin with. And that was something I realized is a mistake we make as homesteaders and farmers, is we have like the model is one income and somebody working all the time. But if they're not working to make the income, like Hofgrid Meat Company has done, then you just always end up in that work all the time mode. And that's not good for any of us, even though, I mean, if you're coming to me for advice on how to have a homestead without working, you've come to the wrong place. I will say that. But oops, I'm about to get a big audio problem if I don't say don't use. Sometimes it changes my mic because sometimes I have to use Zoom for stupid things. This is why I don't like to use Zoom very much. And it wants me to change mics, and then it messes up the entire recording, which would be a bummer if that happened, because you guys are not live telling me the sound went out. Anyway, digital has become a barrier. And I think the big thing, so I asked, when was the last time you had a transformational experience or a transformative experience? Were you in person or not? Or were you online at a webinar? Maybe you were. Like watching other people's transformational experiences online might spark something. Like that's actually kind of cool. You can feel feel the emotion in the room, so to speak. But I look around and people are more anxious. They're more isolated and they're more lost than ever before. And we have this tool right in front of us where we can connect with people, but are we really connecting? Is that true connection? Or are we using it for the dopamine rush to replace the effort it takes to be in messy interactions with people face to face? Because that anxiety, I think, is spurred partially by loneliness. It's partially like that anxiety when we're around real people, it's because we have to actually look at them instead of just text with them. You've seen it, right? Like people sitting in a room texting to each other in the room. Like I've done it jokingly, of course, but that disconnect is real. And here's something I know from speaking more than one language is that I learned German, and I would say I was fluent. I'm not going to say I am fluent right now because I have not been speaking it for 5 years, and I haven't been reading much German. And I would say in order to be fluent again, I need to be fully immersed in it for a few weeks, would be my guess. That's what it took last time, was about a week. And it might take 2 weeks now. When you speak a different language, you think about problems from a different angle. This is germane to the topic, trust me. When you get to know somebody and only speak in that other language, and you've never spoken to them in your native language, you've developed the whole relationship from that mindset with the person. So then, if you try to speak with them in your native language years later, this has happened to me, it's almost like you're speaking to a stranger, even though you know that person is the person, until you have interacted in the other language long enough to have that connection. And so I and this happened, teenager, met somebody, we mostly spoke in English and a little bit in German, and most of our relationship we talked in English. And in fact, we were pen pals for a while. He would write in German and I would write in English. And that's how we communicated. And now I mostly speak in English with him. And when we speak German, I don't know that I've spoken German with him in a while, but it's not the natural way we talk. Although if I was in Germany long enough, we'd probably just start speaking German again. But that's because we went back and forth. My other friend, who I got to know in Germany later in life, when my German was better, we only spoke German. And a couple of times I helped her practice English. And I connect much better with her in German, although lately we've been speaking a little bit in English. So it's just it's weird. Well, that works with digital and in person too, where you'll be really comfortable texting back and forth on Telegram or with your text message app or on Facebook or whatever, Signal or whatever like magical texting app you use, or in the comments on YouTube on a live. And you get to know each other that way. And there's a sense of camaraderie, and your style of communication is like all set. And then you meet in person and don't know what to say to each other. If you think about how Tactical and I got to know each other, I was talking to him verbally on an app that mimics a CB radio. So we talked with words. And then when I saw him in person, that transition wasn't so hard as had he and I been texting. And I've seen this happen where I'm very close with somebody in text, and we meet in person and we're trying to figure out how to talk to each other about a weird topic, and we have to go back to text to get it done. That's the digital in-person disconnect I'm talking about. So, and that leads to like anxiety. So digital interactions, even Zoom calls or even this YouTube video or audio podcast that you're listening to, social media and webinars, they give the illusion of connection, but they rarely satisfy your deeper need for real connection with people, and people who want to be seen and heard and understood, and your own need to be seen, heard, and understood. And I think more importantly, it's the unexpected, random, real-time interruption, reading body language stuff that helps us become better, closer, more trustworthy, share information, and have some of these more transformational experiences that help us be better people, both for ourselves and for our families, and then 3 ways for those, for the rest of the world around us. And when you add in the layer of the algorithms on a lot of the big name social media, it actually just amplifies the whole thing. Where, like I have a strike against me on YouTube that may never go away because I haven't gone to re-education camp because I have an attitude about it. They said I spread medical misinformation when I was talking about a Berkey water filter. And I don't know if it's what I said or what other people said in that moment in time, but I appealed it and they're like, nope, it's medical misinformation. I'm like, it's a water filter. There's nothing medical about the water filter. It filters the water, right? So those algorithms are a poor replacement for real connection. And you don't even know where real connection will take you long term. But when we talk about the Tennessee GSD crew, which has done amazing things, it happened because we liked sitting around campfires. And then in order to sit around campfires, we had to travel far enough and stay at a person's house or camp. And then we were there and we might as well do some things, right? That's how that happened. So I think the constant stream of notifications and always feeling like you have to be responsive instantly has been exacerbated by the digital world, right? Like as a Gen Xer, we grew up with telephones and the phone rang and you did everything in your power to race across the house to get to the phone before the person hung up or before the phone stopped ringing, because you couldn't you didn't have answering machines at first. Well, then we got answering machines. And then, and then it was like, okay, I'm racing. But if the answering machine gets it, I don't have to run quite as fast because they'll start talking. I can pick it up or I can call them back. Then we got caller ID, so you could just basically see who it was. And then we started making the decision to not answer because we did not want to talk to that person at that time. You see how that's, kind of an interesting thing. But then we added, so it was like we got more time back because of that, by the way. It's like, oh, that's mom, I better answer it because there might be an emergency versus that's a telemarketer. I'm pretty sure that, Well, now we're back into this world where we get texts and we get emails and we get calls and we get all of these things and we get messages on Instagram and it's all a notification. Bing, 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 bing. There's nothing like, going out of cell network in a car and then you come back. Like one time I was up in the Rocky Mountains and I had just, for whatever reason, there was no cell service and we came down and then there was, and my phone like literally was like bing, 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 bing. Or when I'm on the airplane, I actually put my phone in mute. When I turn it back on, I put it silent mode because I don't want to hear all of the whatever that comes on my phone. That need to be constantly responsive is hurting our ability to have relationships with each other, and that's why, again, in person is important. And when you're in person, turning your phone on mute and not looking at it all the time is a really good idea. I say this as a person guilty of looking at her phone. I will look at my phone until everybody's at the event I'm expecting to, because somebody's probably lost somewhere. But I try not to. Then today I put my phone on the fridge and walked away for hours so that I didn't have to feel like I needed to, because even just visually seeing it, right? It's putting a barrier up between me and the person like right in front of me. So that constant stream of digital noise can make us feel further behind, more alone, and more frantic and more overwhelmed, which leads to anxiety, which then makes us be in a social situation even harder, especially if you're already a little anxious about social. You see how that's like a cycle that we're in? So I really think digital interactions, they're fast, they're efficient, they're a good way to document how things are so you can go back and look at what happened. But they also add barriers to true connection. And they add distraction, which can be not the best thing. And it's also easy to go through those sorts of things and learn information, but you may not have the kind of transformation you need to commit to make change in your life or to create change around you, which is part of what happens as we grow and change. In-person interactions are messy. Like, somebody doesn't like you because of the way your face moves when you talk. Like, some people think I'm a real bia because I'm a direct speaker, and they don't like that. And I sound sort of like I'm from the Pacific Northwest, which also makes me a bia. So you know what word I'm talking about there, right? And I have RBF, so I mean, I get it. I don't always look like jolly and happy. So that may just make somebody not like me because of that, and that's it. That's as far as that's ever go, and that's fine. They cannot like me. That's because I'm a bia. Anyway, it's messy and inefficient, and things take longer to discuss in groups than they do one-on-one or just to make a decision online. But have you ever really like watched a comment chain on Facebook? Holy cow, that just goes circular sometimes. It's just stupid. And people go back and forth and back and forth. It's also harder to schedule these things. Like, I just had to move our September event, and I had the whole schedule locked in for the rest of the year because I realized that I had double booked with the East Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance, and I didn't want to do that. So the transformative part, though, I think happens more when we're in person because you can trust people. We communicate primarily with tone of voice and body language, which means if you are not as in control of your tone of voice, I know somebody whose tone of voice sounds condescending when they don't mean to be condescending. That actually hurts their ability to establish trust, right? So, because it doesn't matter what they're saying or what their body language is saying, that tone of voice makes people like, why are you being condescending to me, sort of thing. So, if 80% of our communication is nonverbal and we're not in person, think about that. Think about how much you're missing, right? So even the casual asides can solve problems that you're never going to solve in the digital world. And I think that's why making a priority to get out there, especially you introverts who are just like me. I'm an introvert too. Why do you think I have a podcast to begin with? Why do you think I'm comfortable just talking to a microphone? Actually, I wasn't at first, but it got better. The thing is, I got to know a lot of you, so like I feel like I'm actually talking to you. That's just my own fantasy, right? But not being in person means you're missing 80% of the communication of the people around you. And I think part of that is what sparks us towards the transformation, but also the accidental discussions that happen because you hear a thing and overhear a thing and connect with that person or know that person. You can introduce them right now and you can have that thing. And you walk away lighter, calmer, and more connected when you let that happen. And that's a pretty big deal. That's a huge deal. So I think the biggest lessons we have is if you feel overwhelmed and anxious and like it's just not you to go to an event. I can't tell you how many introverts I've watched come to an event anyway and give it a go, and it's very rare that they've walked away saying, you know, I'm never doing that again. They may have felt uncomfortable a time or two. They may have even felt uncomfortable an event or two, but they're usually pretty happy they did it. And they usually go away having met some people that it was important for them to meet. And I think that's a big thing because a lot of our introversion is even amplified when we just always, you know, protect ourselves behind digital walls. Breakthroughs often come not from more digital, but from showing up to the smaller things, right? The smaller local gatherings or the, you know, specific pieces of a festival like Self-Reliance Festival or the East Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance. Those potluck meals give us a chance to just talk. And I think the other thing is like sharing food with people is a really big connection that people can talk about. And those fewer and more far between in-person interactions will do more than thousands of digital touches, even though you get a dopamine hit every time you have a digital interaction. So this is not to say don't learn online. Like I just went through the Chat GPT course that Jack Spirko did. It was totally worth it. It was worth the time investment, 100% digital, worked great. It's a powerful tool for learning, but balance it with your in-person interactions. Find ways to put yourself in situations where you can connect, like come to Self-Reliance Festival or come to the chainsaw class, or I'm calling it the small motor class, or come to a meetup or host one. If you don't like have a meetup at your local library, if you don't want people on there, invite your neighbors over and start getting back into that. How do I connect? And if you have something to do, so this is my secret, if you have something to do, then it's not just like sitting around staring at each other saying, so what do you do for fun? In fact, somebody at today's meetup, which was awesome, was excited because I was talking about how our interviews we've gone more into people's why than in what they do. And he's like, oh, that's great, because in marketing, like the why is the most important thing. And he got to the end of the day, he's like, I didn't ask you what your why was, Nicole, and you've been hostessing all day, so I'm not going to ask you now. And I'm like, hey, way to read my body language, because I have a webinar starting in half an hour, so I don't have time to tell you my why. Learning people's why is so cool. It's like not only being able to share your why, but learning their why. It's going to spark things you never even thought about. So that balance is important. Like we can learn a lot digitally, but we actually need to get in person. Like until somebody actually showed me how to get the carotid artery on a chicken, right? Like physically showed me, even though I'd seen diagrams and videos and all the things, I just really needed the hands-on for that. It was hard to do. And when we talk about, like, people are asking, how do I build community? How do I build community? Like, you do it, unfortunately, by getting out there and sitting down with people and being in person, but you augment it digitally. I mean, in our world, we augment it digitally. It is what we do. So get off your butt, get out the door, be a little uncomfortable if you're uncomfortable. If you're an extrovert, you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. And see what kind of changes can happen when you allow yourself to form those deeper connections. With that, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. Two, consider becoming a member. Find out more at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, guys, go out. And as we say every week,